Maya Rivera wiped the sweat from her forehead as she balanced 3 plates on her left arm and carried 2 coffee cups in her right hand. The breakfast rush at Murphy's Diner was always crazy, but this Tuesday morning felt even more hectic than usual. The small family restaurant in downtown Phoenix buzzed with the usual crowd of construction workers, office employees grabbing quick bites, and elderly regulars who treated the place like their second home. "Order up, Maya," shouted Carlos from the kitchen, ringing the bell for the 3rd time in 2 minutes. She hurried over, her worn sneakers squeaking against the checkered linoleum floor. These shoes had seen better days, but buying new ones wasn't in her budget right now. Every dollar was already spoken for. "Table 4 wants extra syrup, and the guy at table 7 is asking about gluten-free options again," Carlos said, sliding another plate across the steel counter. His weathered hands showed years of working in restaurant kitchens, and Maya had learned to appreciate his straightforward approach to everything. "Got it," Maya replied, forcing a smile despite feeling exhausted. She had been on her feet for 4 hours already, and her shift wouldn't end until 3 in the afternoon. Then she had exactly 2 hours to get home, check on her mother, grab something to eat, and head to night school for her nursing classes. The rhythm of restaurant work had become second nature to Maya over the past 2 years. Coffee refills, order taking, clearing tables, handling complaints, making small talk with customers who seemed to forget that waitresses were real people with real problems. She moved through it all with quiet efficiency, never letting her personal struggles show on her face. "Excuse me, miss," called an elderly woman from table 3. "Could I get some more cream for my coffee?" "Of course, Mrs. Peterson," Maya said, recognizing one of the regulars. "How's your grandson doing with his baseball season?" Mrs. Peterson's face lit up. "Oh, he hit 2 home runs last week. Thank you for asking, dear. You always remember the important things." Maya smiled genuinely this time. These small connections with customers were one of the few bright spots in her demanding days. She grabbed the cream pitcher and refilled Mrs. Peterson's cup, listening to proud grandmother stories while mentally calculating how much she might make in tips today. The lunch crowd would start arriving soon, which meant another 4 hours of nonstop movement. Maya had learned to grab food whenever she could during brief lulls, usually standing in the kitchen eating yesterday's leftover soup or a quick sandwich. Proper meal breaks were a luxury she couldn't afford when every table meant potential tip money. During a rare quiet moment around 2 o'clock, Maya found herself in the small employee break room behind the kitchen. She opened her locker to grab her water bottle and found herself staring at the stethoscope hanging on the back hook. The black rubber tubing and silver chest piece looked almost foreign now, covered in a thin layer of dust from months of non-use. She had bought that stethoscope during her 2nd year of medical school, back when her biggest worry was passing anatomy class and figuring out which specialization to pursue. The weight of it in her hands had felt like holding her future. Now it served as a daily reminder of dreams interrupted by harsh reality. Maya had been 1 semester away from completing her pre-med requirements when her father passed away suddenly. The medical bills from his cancer treatment had drained their small savings account, and her mother's part-time job at a local grocery store wasn't enough to cover basic living expenses, let alone college tuition. Someone had to step up and take care of the family, and Maya was the only one in a position to do it. "Taking a break, Maya?" asked Jennifer, another waitress who had started working at Murphy's about 6 months ago. She was 19 years old and still lived with her parents, which Maya sometimes envied. Jennifer could afford to be picky about shifts and didn't seem to understand why Maya never turned down overtime opportunities. "Just grabbing some water," Maya replied, closing her locker quickly. She didn't like talking about her background with her co-workers. Most of them knew she was taking night classes, but they assumed it was some kind of business or general education program. The medical training felt too personal to share, too painful to explain. Her phone buzzed with a text message from her mother. "Ran out of blood pressure medication. Can you pick some up after work?" Maya sighed quietly. Another $50 she hadn't planned to spend, which meant rice and beans for dinner again this week. She quickly typed back, "Of course, Mom, be home by 4:30. The medication costs seem to increase every month." Her mother's diabetes and high blood pressure required constant monitoring and multiple prescriptions that their basic insurance plan barely covered. Maya had become an expert at finding the cheapest pharmacies and using every discount program available. But it still felt like fighting a losing battle. "Maya, you've got a new table," called out Diane, the afternoon supervisor. "Table 7 just sat down." Maya tucked her phone away and headed back to the dining area. The late afternoon customers were usually more relaxed than the breakfast and lunch crowds, which she appreciated. Her feet were aching, and she still had 3 hours of nursing classes ahead of her tonight. As she approached table 7, she noticed a well-dressed businessman in his 50s reading something on his phone while sipping water. He looked tired, maybe stressed about work. Maya had learned to read customers quickly over the years. Some wanted friendly conversation, others preferred to be left alone with their food, and a few were just having bad days and might take it out on the nearest service worker. "Good afternoon," Maya said, setting down a menu. "Can I start you off with something to drink besides water?" "Coffee would be great, thanks," he replied without looking up from his phone. "Just black, coming right up. I'll give you a few minutes to look over the menu." Maya poured the coffee and delivered it promptly, noting that the man seemed preoccupied with whatever he was reading, probably work emails or business reports. She had served enough business travelers to recognize the signs of someone dealing with important decisions or stressful situations. The rest of her shift passed in the usual blur of taking orders, serving food, clearing tables, and counting tips. By the time she clocked out at 6 o'clock, Maya had earned $83 in tips, which was slightly better than average for a Tuesday. Every dollar counted toward her mother's medication, the electricity bill due next week, and maybe putting aside something for next semester's tuition. As she walked to her 10-year-old Honda Civic in the parking lot, Maya felt the familiar weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Tomorrow would bring another double shift, another round of classes, and another day of balancing impossible financial demands with her determination to eventually become a nurse. She didn't know that her quiet, competent service and hidden medical knowledge would soon change everything. For now, she was just Maya Rivera, a struggling waitress doing her best to take care of her family while chasing a dream that felt further away with each passing day. The dinner rush at Murphy's Diner was in full swing when everything changed. Maya had been working since 11 that morning, and her legs felt like concrete pillars, but she pushed through the fatigue like she always did. The restaurant was packed with the usual Tuesday evening crowd, families celebrating a kid's good report card, couples on budget date nights, and business people grabbing quick meals between meetings. Maya balanced 4 plates of steaming food as she weaved between tables, the familiar sounds of clinking silverware and conversation filling the air. The smell of Carlos's famous meatloaf and mashed potatoes made her stomach growl, reminding her that she hadn't eaten anything since a handful of crackers around noon. "Table 7 needs another coffee refill," Jennifer called out as she rushed past with an armload of dirty dishes. "That businessman guy has been nursing the same cup for like an hour." Maya glanced over at table 7. The same well-dressed man from earlier that afternoon was still there, though he looked different now. His face seemed pale, and he was loosening his tie with one hand while pressing the other against his chest. She had seen him order the grilled chicken dinner about 30 minutes ago, but the plate sat mostly untouched in front of him. Something wasn't right. Maya delivered the 4 plates to table 12, making polite small talk with the family while keeping one eye on the businessman. Her medical training had taught her to notice things others might miss, subtle changes in breathing, skin color, body language that could signal trouble. "Everything okay with your meals?" she asked the family, but her attention was divided. The man at table 7 was now gripping the edge of the table, and his breathing looked shallow. "Delicious as always," replied the father, cutting into his pot roast. "Maya, you've been running around all night. When do you get a break?" "Soon, I hope," Maya said with a distracted smile. "Let me know if you need anything else." She walked quickly toward table 7, her server instincts telling her to check on a customer who wasn't eating, but her medical knowledge screaming that something was seriously wrong. As she got closer, she could see sweat beading on the man's forehead despite the restaurant's air conditioning. "Sir, is everything okay with your dinner?" Maya asked, approaching carefully. "You haven't touched your chicken." The man looked up at her, and she immediately saw the signs she had been trained to recognize. His face was ashen gray, his lips had a slight blue tint, and his eyes held the unmistakable look of someone in distress. When he tried to speak, only a weak whisper came out. I don't feel—" he began, then clutched his chest with both hands. That's when it happened. The man's eyes rolled back, and he slumped forward in his chair before sliding sideways onto the floor with a heavy thud. The sound of his body hitting the linoleum seemed to echo through the restaurant, followed by a moment of stunned silence. Then chaos erupted. "Oh my God," screamed a woman at the next table. "Someone call 911. Is he breathing?" shouted someone else. Maya's medical training kicked in like muscle memory. While other customers backed away in shock and Jennifer stood frozen with her mouth open, Maya was already moving. She dropped to her knees beside the unconscious man, her mind automatically running through the emergency protocol she had memorized years ago. Everyone stepped back. "Please," Maya said firmly, her voice cutting through the panic. "Give him space to breathe." She tilted the man's head back slightly and put her ear close to his mouth, listening for breath sounds while watching his chest for movement. Nothing. She pressed 2 fingers against his neck, searching for a pulse at the carotid artery, very weak and irregular. "Call 911 right now," Maya commanded, looking directly at Carlos, who had come running from the kitchen. "Tell them we have an unconscious male, approximately 50 years old, possible cardiac arrest. We need an ambulance immediately." Without hesitation, Maya positioned herself beside the man and placed the heel of her hand on the center of his chest, interlocking her fingers exactly as she had practiced countless times in medical school. She began chest compressions, pushing hard and fast at least 2 inches deep, counting under her breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The restaurant had gone completely quiet except for Maya's counting and the sound of Carlos speaking urgently to the 911 dispatcher. Every customer was watching as this young waitress transformed into something else entirely, someone who clearly knew exactly what she was doing. 30 compressions, Maya said aloud, then tilted the man's head back, lifted his chin and gave 2 rescue breaths. She could taste the metallic fear in her own mouth, but her hands remained steady, starting compressions again. "Maya, what do you need us to do?" asked Diane, the supervisor, who was standing nearby with wide eyes. "Check if there's an AED in the building," Maya replied without stopping her compressions. "Automated external defibrillator. It might be in the manager's office or near the first aid kit, small white box with lightning bolt symbols." Jennifer ran toward the back office while Maya continued the life-saving rhythm. Push, 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 30 times, then 2 breaths. She could feel sweat dripping down her back and her arms were starting to ache, but she didn't slow down. "How do you know how to do this?" asked Mrs. Peterson, who had been watching in amazement. I had some medical training," Maya replied between compressions, not wanting to explain her whole story right now. 25, 26, 27. The sound of sirens grew louder outside and Maya felt a wave of relief. Help was coming, but she couldn't stop until the paramedics took over. She had been doing CPR for what felt like hours, but was probably only 3 or 4 minutes. "Found it," Jennifer called out, running back with a white case. "Is this what you wanted?" "Yes, perfect," Maya said. "Open it up and turn it on. Follow the voice instructions exactly." The AED's computerized voice began giving commands as Jennifer fumbled with the device. Maya kept doing compressions until the machine told her to stop and attach the pads. Working together, they placed the electrode pads on the man's bare chest. "Everyone stand back," the AED announced. "Analyzing heart rhythm." Maya stepped away, her hands shaking slightly now that she had a moment to think about what was happening. She had just performed CPR on a complete stranger in the middle of a crowded restaurant. And somehow her old medical knowledge had come flooding back like she had never stopped using it. The AED delivered a shock, and the man's body jolted. Maya immediately resumed compressions, counting again, when suddenly she felt a hand weakly grab her wrist. The man's eyes opened, confused and unfocused, but definitely alive. "Sir, stay still," Maya said gently. "You're okay. Help is here." The paramedics burst through the door just as the man tried to sit up. Maya quickly briefed them on what had happened, using medical terminology that made the lead paramedic look at her with surprise and respect. "Good work," the paramedic said as they took over care. "Your quick response probably saved his life. Are you in the medical field?" "Not exactly," Maya replied quietly, watching as they loaded the man onto a stretcher. "I just had some training." As the ambulance drove away with lights flashing, the restaurant slowly returned to normal. Customers finished their meals while talking in hushed tones about what they had witnessed. Maya cleaned up the area around table 7, her hands now visibly shaking as the adrenaline wore off. "Maya," Diane said, approaching with concern, "why don't you take the rest of the night off?" "That was incredible what you did." "I'm okay," Maya insisted, though she felt anything but okay. "We're still busy and I need the tips." She went back to serving tables, refilling coffee cups, and taking orders as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But inside, Maya couldn't stop thinking about the man's face when he woke up, and the way her medical knowledge had returned so naturally when someone needed help. She had no idea that the life she saved belonged to someone who would soon change her entire world. 3 days had passed since the incident at Murphy's Diner, and Maya was trying to push the memory of that terrifying evening to the back of her mind. Life had returned to its usual rhythm of double shifts, night classes, and worrying about bills. She had spent Wednesday night at the hospital with her mother, who had experienced some complications with her diabetes medication. Thursday brought a chemistry exam that Maya barely had time to study for, and Friday morning started with a text from her landlord reminding her that rent was due in 5 days. Maya tied her apron around her waist and checked the clock on the wall. 11:15 on Friday morning meant the lunch crowd would start trickling in soon. Her feet still ached from yesterday's 12-hour shift, but she had learned to ignore physical discomfort a long time ago. Every hour worked meant money in her pocket, and money meant keeping her mother healthy and staying in nursing school. "Maya, table 4 needs extra napkins," called Jennifer as she rushed past with a coffee pot. "And Mrs. Peterson is asking for you specifically at table 6. "On my way," Maya replied, grabbing a stack of napkins from the server station. She enjoyed the familiar routine of taking care of regular customers like Mrs. Peterson, who always asked about her classes and seemed genuinely interested in her life. "How did your exam go yesterday, dear?" Mrs. Peterson asked as Maya refilled her coffee cup. "Pretty well, I think," Maya said with a tired smile. "Chemistry isn't my strongest subject, but I studied as much as I could." "You're so dedicated, honey. Your mother must be proud of you for staying in school while working so hard." Maya nodded, not trusting herself to speak about her mother's recent health scare. Mrs. Peterson meant well, but explaining the constant struggle of balancing everything felt too overwhelming right now. The lunch rush was starting to build when Maya noticed a familiar figure standing near the entrance. Her stomach dropped as she recognized the businessman from Tuesday night, the one who had collapsed at table 7. He looked completely different now, healthy and alert, wearing a crisp navy suit and holding what appeared to be a small bouquet of flowers. Maya's first instinct was to hide in the kitchen. She felt embarrassed about the whole incident, worried that he might be upset about something or want to complain about the restaurant's handling of the emergency. Maybe the hospital bills were expensive or he blamed Murphy's Diner for somehow causing his heart attack. "Excuse me," the man said, approaching Diane at the hostess station. "I'm looking for a waitress named Maya. I believe she works the day shift." Diane looked around the dining room and spotted Maya near table 12, looking like she wanted to disappear. "Maya, someone's here to see you." With nowhere to hide, Maya walked slowly toward the entrance, trying to read the man's expression. He was smiling, which seemed like a good sign, but she had learned not to trust first impressions when it came to customer complaints. "Hi," Maya said quietly. "How are you feeling?" Are you okay now?" "I'm much better, thanks to you," the man replied warmly. "I wanted to come back and thank you properly for what you did Tuesday night. I'm Alex Rodriguez, by the way. I don't think we were properly introduced while I was unconscious on your floor." Maya felt her cheeks flush red. "Oh, I'm Maya Rivera." "I'm really glad you're okay. That was pretty scary." "Scary for you, maybe," Alex said with a gentle laugh. "I don't remember much after sitting down for dinner. The doctors at Phoenix General told me you performed CPR and used an AED until the paramedics arrived. They said your quick response is probably the reason I'm standing here talking to you right now." "I just did what anyone would do," Maya said, uncomfortable with the praise. "It wasn't really a big deal." "Actually, it was a very big deal," Alex replied seriously. "Most people would have panicked or waited for someone else to take charge. But you knew exactly what to do. The emergency room doctor was impressed when I described what happened. He said whoever helped me had real medical training." Maya shifted nervously from one foot to the other. "I had some college classes a while ago. Just basic stuff." Alex studied her face carefully. "Would you mind if I bought you a cup of coffee? I'd like to hear more about those college classes if you don't mind sharing. I'm curious about your background." Maya glanced around the restaurant, which was getting busier by the minute. "I'm actually working right now and we're pretty swamped with the lunch crowd. I can't really take a break." "I understand completely," Alex said. "What time do you get off today?" I could come back or we could meet somewhere else if you prefer. Something in his tone made Maya pause. This didn't feel like a complaint or a lawsuit waiting to happen. He seemed genuinely grateful and interested in talking to her as a person, not just as the waitress who happened to be there during his medical emergency. I finish at 6 tonight, Maya said slowly, but I have classes at 7, so I don't have much time. 6 works perfectly, Alex replied. There's a coffee shop called Luna's about 2 blocks from here. Do you know it? Maya nodded. She had walked past Luna's countless times, but never had the money to actually buy their expensive coffee drinks. Great. I'll see you there at 6:15 if that's okay. And Maya? Alex handed her the small bouquet of flowers. These are just a small thank you. What you did goes far beyond anything flowers could express, but I wanted you to have them anyway. The flowers were beautiful. White roses mixed with baby's breath. The kind of arrangement Maya had only seen in fancy flower shop windows. She accepted them with trembling hands, feeling overwhelmed by the gesture. You really didn't need to do this, Maya said. I'm just glad you're okay. I'll see you at 6:15, Alex said with a smile. And Maya? Thank you again. You saved my life. As he walked away, Maya stood holding the flowers and watching through the window as he got into a sleek black car that probably cost more than she made in 2 years. Other customers in the restaurant were staring at her curiously, probably wondering why their waitress was holding a fancy bouquet during the lunch rush. Who was that? Jennifer asked, appearing at Maya's elbow with wide eyes. And why did he bring you flowers? Do you have a secret boyfriend you haven't told us about? It's not like that, Maya said quickly. He's the man who had the heart attack Tuesday night. He just wanted to say thank you. Wow, Jennifer said, looking impressed. That's really sweet of him. Those flowers must have cost a fortune. Maya spent the rest of her shift wondering what Alex Rodriguez wanted to talk about. She tried to focus on taking orders and serving food, but her mind kept wandering to their upcoming meeting. Why was he so interested in her medical background? Most people would just say thank you and move on with their lives. During a brief lull around 3 o'clock, Maya looked up Alex Rodriguez on her phone. What she found made her heart skip a beat. The first search result showed a professional headshot of the same man who had collapsed at table 7, but the title underneath made her dizzy. Alex Rodriguez, Chief Executive Officer, Pacific Coast Restaurant Group. Maya quickly scrolled through more results, her eyes widening with each new piece of information. Pacific Coast Restaurant Group owned over 800 restaurants across the western United States. They had locations in California, Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, and Washington. The company was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Maya had saved the life of someone who could probably buy Murphy's Diner with his pocket change. She spent the remaining 3 hours of her shift in a daze, mechanically going through the motions of waitressing while her mind raced with questions. Why would the CEO of a massive restaurant company want to have coffee with a struggling waitress? What could they possibly have to talk about? At exactly 6 o'clock, Maya clocked out and walked slowly toward Luna's coffee shop, still carrying the white roses and wondering if her life was about to change in ways she couldn't even imagine. Maya stood outside Luna's coffee shop for a full 3 minutes before working up the courage to walk inside. Through the large windows, she could see Alex Rodriguez sitting at a corner table, looking completely at ease in the upscale atmosphere. The coffee shop was the kind of place where college students with wealthy parents studied for exams and business people held important meetings. Maya felt completely out of place in her worn jeans and faded Murphy's Diner t-shirt. The smell of expensive coffee beans and fresh pastries hit her as soon as she opened the door. Everything here probably cost more than she spent on groceries in a week. Maya spotted Alex immediately and walked over slowly, still clutching the white roses he had given her earlier. Maya, thank you so much for coming, Alex said, standing up to shake her hand. Please have a seat. Can I get you something to drink? They make an amazing vanilla latte here. Just regular coffee is fine, Maya said quietly, sliding into the chair across from him. With cream if they have it. Alex walked to the counter and returned a few minutes later with 2 steaming cups and a chocolate croissant on a small plate. I wasn't sure if you'd eaten dinner, so I grabbed this for you. You mentioned having classes at 7, so I figured you might be rushing. Maya's stomach growled at the sight of food, reminding her that she had skipped lunch during the busy shift. Thank you. That's really thoughtful. Before we talk about anything else, Alex said, settling back into his chair. I want you to know that the doctors at Phoenix General ran every test imaginable on my heart. They said I'm in excellent health now, but what happened Tuesday was a warning sign that I can't ignore. Without your quick thinking, I might not be here having this conversation. Maya took a sip of her coffee, which was easily the best she had ever tasted, and tried to think of something appropriate to say. I'm really glad you're okay. That was probably the scariest thing that's ever happened to me at work. I can imagine, Alex replied. But Maya, what impressed the medical team wasn't just that you acted quickly. It was how you acted. The paramedic told me you gave them a perfect medical summary when they arrived. You used terminology that most people wouldn't know. He said whoever helped me clearly had professional medical training. Maya felt her cheeks burning. It wasn't really professional training. I was in college for a while studying pre-med, but I had to stop. Can you tell me about that? Alex asked gently. I'm genuinely curious about your background. For the next 20 minutes, Maya found herself opening up to this man in a way she rarely did with anyone. Maybe it was his sincere interest, or maybe she was just exhausted from keeping everything inside for so long. She told him about her father's cancer, the medical bills that destroyed their savings, dropping out of school to support her mother, and her current struggle to get through nursing classes while working full-time at Murphy's Diner. So you were one semester away from finishing your pre-med requirements? Alex asked, leaning forward with obvious interest. Yeah, but that feels like another lifetime now, Maya said, breaking off a piece of the croissant. I'm focusing on nursing now because it's more practical. Shorter program, better job opportunities, and I can actually afford the tuition if I keep working. How much longer until you finish the nursing program? About 18 months if everything goes perfectly, Maya replied. But with my schedule, it might take longer. I can only take 2 classes each semester because of work. Alex was quiet for a moment, stirring his coffee thoughtfully. Maya, can I ask you something? What would you say if I told you there might be a way for you to finish your nursing degree faster, while earning significantly more money than you make at Murphy's? Maya looked at him suspiciously. I'd say that sounds too good to be true. Is this some kind of pyramid scheme or something? Alex laughed, and Maya noticed how different he looked when he smiled. No, definitely not a pyramid scheme. Let me explain what I do, and then I'll tell you about an opportunity that might interest you. He pulled out his phone and showed her the Pacific Coast Restaurant Group website. My company owns 847 restaurants across 5 states. We have everything from casual dining like Murphy's to upscale steakhouses and family pizza places. About 50,000 employees total. Maya stared at the numbers on his phone screen. 50,000 employees. She couldn't even imagine managing that many people. Over the past few years, Alex continued, we've been developing a comprehensive wellness program for our employees. Restaurant work is physically demanding. Stress levels are high and workplace injuries are more common than they should be. We want to change that. That sounds like a good idea, Maya said. Not sure where this was leading. The problem is, we need someone to lead this program who understands both the medical side and the restaurant industry. Someone who knows what it's like to work a double shift on your feet all day, but who also has the medical knowledge to develop real solutions. Maya's heart started beating faster. What exactly are you saying? I'm offering you a job, Maya. Director of Employee Wellness for Pacific Coast Restaurant Group. You would be responsible for developing health and safety programs, training managers on workplace wellness, and creating systems to prevent the kind of injuries that happen too often in restaurant kitchens. Maya nearly choked on her coffee. You're offering me a job? But I'm just a waitress. I don't have any management experience or business training. You have something much more valuable, Alex replied firmly. You have medical knowledge, you understand restaurant work from the ground up, and you've proven that you can perform under pressure. Plus, you care about people. That combination is exactly what this program needs. But I don't even have a college degree, Maya protested. How could I possibly run a program for 50,000 employees? You'd have a whole team to support you, and we'd provide all the training you need, Alex explained. The starting salary would be $75,000 per year, plus full health benefits for you and your mother. And here's the best part. The company would pay for you to finish your nursing degree. Full tuition, books, everything. Maya felt like the room was spinning. $75,000 was more than double what she made working 60 hours a week at Murphy's. Are you serious right now? This isn't some kind of joke? I'm completely serious, Alex said. Maya, you saved my life. But more than that, you showed me exactly the kind of person we need to help our employees stay healthy and safe. Someone who acts without thinking about themselves when others need help. I don't understand, Maya said, shaking her head. Why would you offer something like this to someone you barely know? You could hire someone with an MBA or years of corporate experience. Because those people have never worked a 16-hour shift in a restaurant kitchen, Alex replied. They've never had to choose between buying groceries and paying for medical bills. They don't understand what our employees go through every day. You do. Maya stared at the chocolate croissant on her plate, trying to process everything Alex had just told her. A salary that would solve all her financial problems. Health insurance for her mother. Free college tuition. It sounded like winning the lottery. I need to think about this, Maya said quietly. This is huge, and I don't want to make a mistake. Of course, Alex said, reaching into his jacket pocket. Here's my business card. Take all the time you need. But Maya, I hope you'll seriously consider this opportunity. I think you could make a real difference in a lot of people's lives. Maya looked at the elegant business card with Alex's name and contact information. Can I ask you something? Why is this so important to you? Alex was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice was softer. Because 15 years ago, I was working as a line cook in a restaurant in Los Angeles. I was 28 years old, trying to save money to open my own place someday. One night, I slipped on a wet floor and broke my wrist. The restaurant had terrible insurance, and I couldn't afford physical therapy. My wrist never healed properly, which ended my dream of being a chef. That's awful, Maya said. It taught me that the restaurant industry doesn't always take care of the people who make it successful, Alex continued. When I eventually built this company, I promised myself that our employees would be treated better, but I've realized that good intentions aren't enough. We need someone who truly understands the challenges restaurant workers face. Maya walked home that night with Alex's business card in her pocket, and more hope in her heart than she had felt in years. But she also felt terrified. This opportunity seemed too perfect, too good to be true. And if she took the job and failed, she would lose everything she had worked so hard to build. She had 24 hours to make the most important decision of her life. Maya spent that entire night staring at the ceiling, turning Alex's business card over and over in her hands. The numbers kept running through her mind. $75,000 full health benefits, free college tuition. It seemed impossible that her life could change so dramatically because she had done what felt natural in an emergency. By morning, she had made her decision. You're sure about this? Her mother asked over breakfast, reading Alex's business card for the third time. This man is really offering you all of this just because you helped him when he was sick? I think so, Mom, Maya replied, though her voice shook with uncertainty. I mean, what if I'm terrible at it? What if I don't know how to manage programs for thousands of people? Her mother reached across their small kitchen table and squeezed Maya's hand. Misha, you've been taking care of people your whole life. You took care of your father when he was sick. You take care of me, you take care of customers at the restaurant. This is just taking care of more people. Maya called Alex that afternoon, her hands trembling as she dialed his number. Mr. Rodriguez? This is Maya Rivera. I've thought about your offer, and if you're still serious about it, I'd like to accept the position. The relief and excitement in Alex's voice were immediate. Maya, that's wonderful news. I think you're going to do incredible things with this program. Can you start Monday? I know that's quick, but I'm eager to get this initiative moving. Maya's last shift at Murphy's Diner was emotional. Carlos hugged her so tightly she could barely breathe, and even tough as nails. Diane wiped away tears when Maya turned in her apron. Mrs. Peterson insisted on taking a photo with her, before you become too famous to talk to regular folks like us. You remember where you came from, Jennifer said as Maya cleaned out her locker. And maybe when your fancy new company needs more restaurants, you can put in a good word for Murphy's, Maya laughed. But she promised to stay in touch with everyone who had become like family during her difficult years of working there. The first few weeks at Pacific Coast Restaurant Group were overwhelming. Maya's new office was bigger than her entire apartment, and she had an assistant who helped schedule meetings and organize her calendar. The other executives were polite but clearly skeptical about Alex's decision to hire a waitress for such an important role. Let them doubt you, Alex told Maya during one of their weekly check-ins. Your success will speak louder than their opinions. Maya threw herself into learning everything she could about workplace wellness, employee safety regulations, and corporate program management. She spent her first month visiting different restaurant locations, talking to workers during their breaks, and asking about their biggest health and safety concerns. What she discovered was both heartbreaking and motivating. Kitchen workers regularly suffered burns because restaurants didn't provide adequate protective equipment. Servers developed chronic back and foot problems from standing for 12-hour shifts without proper shoes or floor mats. Many employees avoided seeking medical treatment for work-related injuries because they couldn't afford to miss shifts. This isn't just about following safety rules, Maya told Alex after completing her initial research. These people are suffering because basic protective measures are too expensive for individual restaurant owners to implement. But we have the resources to make real changes. Maya's first major initiative was developing a comprehensive safety equipment program. She negotiated bulk purchasing deals for non-slip shoes, supportive floor mats, cut-resistant gloves, and ergonomic kitchen tools. The company provided these items free to all employees, which initially seemed expensive but quickly paid for itself through reduced worker compensation claims and lower employee turnover. The program's success led to Maya's next project, creating basic medical response training for all restaurant managers. Drawing from her own medical background, she developed simple courses that taught supervisors how to handle common workplace emergencies. From minor cuts to more serious incidents like heart attacks or choking. "I never thought about it before," said Roberto, a manager from a Phoenix location, after completing Maya's training. "But you're right. If someone gets hurt on my shift, I should know how to help them instead of just panicking and calling 911. 6 months into her new role, Maya received a call that made her heart race. There had been a serious accident at a restaurant in Colorado. A cook had suffered a severe allergic reaction during dinner service. But instead of chaos and delay, the manager had immediately recognized the symptoms, administered the restaurant's emergency epinephrine auto-injector, and kept the employee stable until paramedics arrived. "Your training program saved that young man's life," Alex told Maya when he called with the update. "The emergency room doctor said he would have died without immediate treatment." Maya sat in her office that day, staring out at the Phoenix skyline and thinking about how different her life had become. A year ago, she had been struggling to pay for her mother's medication while working double shifts and barely staying awake in night classes. Now she was developing programs that protected thousands of workers across 5 states. But the most rewarding part wasn't the salary or the prestigious title. It was the letters and emails she received from employees whose lives had been improved by her initiatives. A single mother in California who could finally afford health insurance for her children, a young man in Nevada who had avoided a serious back injury because of the ergonomic equipment Maya's program provided, a grandmother in Colorado who caught early signs of diabetes during one of the company's new health screenings. Maya also finished her nursing degree, taking evening classes that the company paid for completely. Walking across the stage at graduation, wearing her cap and gown, she spotted her mother in the audience crying tears of joy. Alex was there too, applauding as loudly as any proud parent. "You know what I'm most proud of?" Alex asked Maya at the reception after graduation. "You never forgot where you came from." "Every program you've developed comes from your heart, not from some business school textbook." Maya's success caught attention throughout the restaurant industry. She was invited to speak at conferences, sharing her story and encouraging other companies to prioritize employee wellness. Food service magazines wrote articles about her innovative programs, and she received job offers from companies offering even higher salaries. But Maya stayed loyal to Pacific Coast Restaurant Group and to Alex, who had believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. 2 years after accepting the position, Maya decided to visit Murphy's Diner during her lunch break. Walking through the door felt like stepping back in time, but everything seemed smaller and more cramped than she remembered. "Maya," Mrs. Peterson practically shouted from her usual table. "Look at you, all professional and successful. Sit down and tell me everything." Carlos came out of the kitchen, flour still dusting his hands, and gave Maya another one of his famous bear hugs. "We're so proud of you, mija. You're living proof that good things happen to good people." Jennifer, who was still working there while studying for her own nursing degree, couldn't stop staring at Maya's business suit and confident demeanor. "You look so different. Not just the clothes, but everything about you seems stronger." "I feel different," Maya admitted, "but I hope I haven't changed too much. This place taught me everything important about treating people with kindness and respect." As Maya drove back to her office that afternoon, she thought about the chain of events that had led her here. One moment of crisis, one decision to help someone in need, had transformed not just her own life, but the lives of thousands of restaurant workers across the country. She had learned that sometimes the biggest opportunities come disguised as ordinary moments, and that helping others without expecting anything in return often brings the greatest rewards of all.